Hi everybody, it's JT Hume from the world-famous CC and JT Amateur Hour, a podcast where we help writers write. We're trying out this new thing in social media. It's called YouTube. Yes, I know, I'm caught up to the 21st century almost here. But what I'm doing here is I'm going to be reading a book that I wrote in 2013, chapter by chapter, and I started yesterday. But last night I realized that what I should have been doing I should have been reading and then explaining the thought processes behind the creation of my book. So I'm going to read my first book. It's kind of flipping around there. Duties Faithfully Executed. The link for this book is down here somewhere in the comment thing. Whenever you watch YouTube, they always go, it's down here somewhere. And I'm like, what am I really pointing out? Moving on. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to backtrack. I'm going to read the preface again, and I'm going to read the chapter 1 again, and then I'm going to read chapter 2, and then I'm going to take a pause there, and I'm going to explain what I did and why I did as the writer of this particular universe. If you are interested in this book, again, the link is down here, and also I'll be doing blog posts. Actually, I'm going to be updating a blog post that talks about this. And if you have feedback or if you have questions about this book, about the processes, or about the single brain cell that Cece and I share when we do this creative thing, let us know. You can do it through our contacts page. You can shoot us an email. There's lots of ways to get a hold of us. Basically, if you want to, you can find us. So anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of scrolling here and get over to the preface. That's what I'm telling myself anyway. There we go, preface. So I'm going to read and then talk afterwards. So if you've already watched yesterday's broadcast, then you can go ahead and just sort of nibble on that little forward thing there, and you can push up until I get to chapter 2. And I'll do this when I hit chapter 2, so you know when to stop. Okie doke, here goes. Preface. If you've never lived life in the public eye, then it's probably nothing like you imagine. Consider for a moment your every word, action, and relationship being dissected by a group of pundits, whose major crisis as a teenager was back acne and passing high school algebra. The list of resources they use today is long and intrusive. Internet searches, location tracking applications, paid informants, and so on. Just when I think I've heard everything, a new tactic appears, and my people have to adjust accordingly. The ironic thing is, you don't know a thing about me. You think you know who I am. I've been in your face through TV, mainstream and social media, and numerous web pages. But as you're about to learn, you really don't. This isn't unusual. How many times have we, both as a person and society, elevated a politician or a star because they make us feel good, only to discover later our idol is a real jerk, present company included. We fall in love with an image carefully manufactured by a crackerjack public relations staff who do their job so well we care little about the real person behind the curtain. I'm parting the curtain here a little. Well, a lot, for a lot of reasons. To begin with, I'd like to show how a flawed and fragile human being like myself could be successful in spite of those flaws. I'm not seeking compliments or kudos. Instead, I'm trying to raise awareness that you, as my reader, are an incredible person, that it's okay to fail and fall down. Keep getting up and keep swinging away. It really does get better. If nothing else, I'm proof of that. Secondly, if you see in yourself some of the burdens I carry or have carried, seek help. Reach out to a trusted loved one. If the load's too heavy, then get professional help. There's no shame in this. A drowning person usually calls out before sinking to the bottom of the lake. Sometimes the biggest challenge is understanding the depth of the water under us. The intensely personal moments in this memoir may be uncomfortable. I spoke to each participant involved to let them know what I planned to write. Many gave permission, though some did not. Any gaps in the narrative are most likely for that reason, aside from my writing inability. The loved ones, friends, and others who've passed on are portrayed as respectfully and honestly as possible. All of the mistakes and oversights are mine and mine alone. During this journey, I've met and been touched by millions. Each of you helped shape me in some way, and for that I'm grateful. You have a valuable share of my successes. Again, my failures are mine and mine alone. This book is dedicated to you. You have my undying thanks. Chapter 1, The Campaign. Nothing brings out the lurid traits of human nature like office-seeking. Rutherford B. Hayes. If you're reading this because you want to know my last campaign's dirty little secret, here it is. We hate chicken. Fried chicken, roasted chicken, fast food chicken, you name it. Why? It's all you eat on the trail because most often it's usually the main dish of fundraising dinners and campaign stops. It's cheap, plentiful, and can be molded into 1,000 shapes. At the end of the day, though, it's still chicken. The worst by far is barbecue chicken. It did things to Doug's guts that no human should endure. Dear Lord, save us from the smells that came from that man after he ate it. He knew, of course, but it was his cocaine. It got to the point where we told our advanced people that we'd deduct 10% from their checks for every piece of barbecue found on Doug's plate. Eventually they learned, but we all suffered in the meantime. The most contradictory phrase used by the press is a well-organized campaign. Campaigns are never organized. They're like our sun, a ball of energy that burns the unprotected, sheds lights on the dark spots in our personalities, and is constantly exploding until it implodes upon itself and destroys everything in its orbit. Thousands of campaigns happen every 2 years in America, and each of them is a disaster in motion. The trick is not to show it. After the first Tuesday in November, most campaigns and would-be elected ones become trivia questions in the bars around the Beltway. Friendships are destroyed, children are forgotten, the sex is hurried, and most marriages are revealed for the shams that they are. But campaigns are essential because they are the fire that vaporizes the weak and forges the strong into viable and electable politicians. Every night on the trail, I whispered one simple prayer. Please elect me, so I'll stop running. Chapter 2, The Beginning. Candidates are born, or made, with no set formula of what does and doesn't work. Jack Kennedy's dad, a multimillionaire bootlegger, wrestled himself an ambassadorship to Britain and swore one of his many sons would be president. Franklin Roosevelt's aristocratic pedigree went back generations and included a cousin in the White House. Don't call him Teddy. On the other hand, Abraham Lincoln was probably America's most unsuccessful politician with one House term in his pocket before he saved the Union from himself. Jerry Ford, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama grew up without the men who fathered them. And there's me. I was an army brat conceived because dear old dad convinced mom to give up her virtue for her country. She was young and hopelessly in love with a guy, but should have remembered that having sex one time, and one time only, can still lead to babies. Her sacrifice was for naught. A few months after he departed, dear old dad was disintegrated. His death didn't happen during any conflict or war of any sort, but was as a result of a stupid training exercise gone wrong. One moment he was alive and joking with his squad. The next he was human debris, a term used when a person's body is no longer in one piece. Not long after that, I was born yelling and pissing in all directions. Some of my campaign volunteers would swear I never stopped, but that's part of my charm. Filed under strong leadership. Shortly after my earthly debut, Mom went into her mother's bathroom and chose not to emerge. It's easy to drown, it seems, when you've had a few shots of Jack Daniels, sleeping pills, and no will to live. Even for her son, she was breastfeeding. I said nothing about this to anyone for decades. The story came out during one of my campaigns, for governor, I think. But you knew that. When I went national, no one could avoid the scandal of my conception and birth splattered over every tabloid and sleazy website in America. Miles-long columns have been written for years implying that my immediate family history has a negative impact on my ability to serve as your elected official. I can't say I disagree, but scratch the surface of every politician and you'll find flaws common to human nature. The laser-sharp public spotlight spares no one, and many can't handle the pressure. Edmund Muskie, for God's sakes, was an honorable statesman until he broke down in public. I had my breakdowns too, though more through anger than angst. I can verify that my background and upbringing did push me towards a path of self-destruction. I was my own worst enemy, in fact. I couldn't see the incoming disaster of my personal life as I willingly laid on the tracks and heard the freight train's horn in the distance. So a lot of things to unwrap there, a lot of things moving on. I'm setting up a kind of a political thing with those first few words. I'm setting up some dialogue. I'm setting up some framework in your mind about what, this is a politician. And I've mentioned that, that he ran for governor. And that I also mentioned that, and I should name the gentleman, of course, his name is Bruce. We should name that Bruce is going to be on the national level. And you could probably pick up there's kind of a hint or kind of a kind of nervousness about doing that because he's clearly pointed out that there is a price to pay. And you and I see this price that's being paid every day when we see celebrities and politicians, whether they like it or not, have their most intimate, barest secrets pulled out, if only for the entertainment of the masses. And I'm going to get more into that concept about, revealing yourself for the entertainment of the masses, the cult of celebrity. And I choose those words carefully and deliberately, cult of celebrity. And it was through this book that I hope I maybe show a little bit of the positive and negatives of that. Another tone I hope you picked up on, and I've said this before, is there's a lot of West Wing influence here. It's the sacrifice of self in service for the government. And this is something I can speak to, of course, because I just finished myself a long term in public service, where most of my professional career was as a public service, the Air Force, followed by employment with the state of Nevada. Though I never rose to any degree of relevance. I never really rose to that kind of importance like the fictional characters and the celebrities and the politicians that you follow. There's also another tone here, which I'm hoping that you're picking up. And again, it's plagiarism if you do one source, but it's research if you do more than one source. And this book pulls on many, many sources. Myself, for instance, The West Wing, other political failures, other political works of fiction and nonfiction. I mentioned, for example, Abraham Lincoln, and I've read several books on President Lincoln. I've read several books on President Truman. I've read books about World War II, and I've read books about the Civil War, and that stuff is going to come out. So that was really, again, it's not plagiarism if you're using more than one source. But also, if you pick up another tone here, if you've ever read Primary Colors by Anonymous, who was a Newsweek reporter whose name escapes me right now. Okay, I'll remember it for later. But Primary Colors is an excellent book diving into a political campaign, and that was also another source. I also read, of course, stories on national magazines such as the Washington Post and others about what happens on a campaign trail. So lots of things go into this book. And it's to your benefit, because what I want to do is I want to provide you a realistic view using multiple sources and hopefully putting it all together so it sort of kind of makes sense. I hope it sort of does. Anywho, so that was the beginning part of it. I don't know if I actually finished chapter 1. I saw a break point there, but I'm going to go ahead and take that break point now, and I will continue to read forward. And I hope that you're following along, and I hope that you have some interest in this, and I hope you have questions and you want to reach out. So again, contact information down there. If you want to get the book and read ahead and perhaps follow along, that's what they did to us in school, and it helped us, stick that stuff in our brain. That link is also going to be down there, and also I'm going to be updating the blog post on our website at www.carsonhume.com. Please feel free to reach out. Feedback makes me a better writer, and it makes me a better person. So let me know what you think. Until then, y'all take very good care of yourself, and I'll be doing this again real soon. Bye-bye.